Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining LaShawn and I today for Beyond the Paycheck. We are so excited that all of you took time out of your busy, busy days to be here with us for an hour. My name is Kaylee Hansen. I'm with GoCo and I am the marketing webinar expert here. So you've probably seen me on a couple webinars before, seen my emails for invites in your inbox. Super excited to have you all here today. To get the conversation going a little bit and that chat going, I would love to know, what is your go-to morning drink order? Is it a cup of coffee like I have right now? Is it tea? Do you chug water in the mornings? Let me know in the chat. And then LaShawn, what about you? What is your go-to drink order?
Well, I am a refresher girl. Starbucks refresher is my go-to. It gives me energy and it lasts me the whole day. So
I
I see a
love
lot of coffee.
a lot of coffee. Yes, my husband loves the Starbucks refreshers. That's all he gets
Yes,
every time we go. I am definitely like a vanilla latte girl, but I love
yes.
a refresher, a tea, really, honestly, anything you give me, I will drink in the mornings. But yeah, we have some coffee. We have some all caps coffee. I know that
Yes.
need it in the morning.
I need that collagen protein smoothie that Rihanna's drinking over there.
That sounds
Sounds
amazing.
right? It sounds good and like beneficial at the same time.
Exactly. Oh, Francois also said a Starbucks refresher or Tango Passion Tea
Yeah.
latte. I agree. I'm a latte fan. But awesome. Well, thank you everyone so much. Keep those comments coming. If you want to share where you're tuning in from in the chat, please do so as well. This is a very chat-friendly webinar, so feel free to include your thoughts throughout the webinar as well. If you have any questions during the webinar that you'd like LaShawn to answer, then feel free to put them in the Q&A. If you hover over the Zoom, there's a little Q&A button at the bottom. You can put those questions there and we'll get to them either through the webinar if they make sense where we're talking about or at the end. Just a couple other little housekeeping things before I pass it over. We will be sending out the recording afterwards, so be on the lookout for that. Additionally, I will share the SHRM and HRCI codes at the very end of the webinar, so feel free to stick around for that. And with that, LaShawn, do you want to take it over?
Absolutely. So excited to be here. I see people shouting out North Carolina, Cincinnati, Ohio, Canada, St. Paul, Minnesota. Wow. So some of you've gotten up early to just be here on this call. So I just really appreciate it. And I'm sure that you are going to enjoy this conversation. As I was telling Kaylee, it's not a training in a traditional sense. I really want to hear your thoughts, your questions. How are you feeling about what I'm saying? Because all of this is going to be conceptually new, right? We're in a different labor landscape in today's world, and we're going to be walking through why that is and just some tactics that you can do as an employer or as an employee to help make sure that your workplace is one that thrives. So I'm going to be sharing my screen, and I'm hoping that you guys can see it. I'll wait a couple of seconds just to make sure you guys can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. All right. So, beyond the paycheck, redefining employee investment in today's workplace. This is such a prominent topic because no longer are the days where people are just going to work grateful for a paycheck. Now there are demands that accompany that need for a paycheck, and our employees want differently. The labor landscape has shifted seismically, and we're going to talk about what that looks like and why that is. But before I do that, let me hop into what the agenda is. So first, we're going to be talking about the shift, the evolving landscape of employee care. What does employee care look like in 2024 as of today? And I can assure you it's vastly different than what it looked like even 3 years ago. So we're going to talk about that journey to where we are today. Then we're going to talk about the need, what is happening with work-life balance that no longer exists, and what work-life integration and holistic well-being looks like. How does that show up in the workplace, and how can you meet your employee needs when it comes to their well-being at work? Then we're going to talk about the result, the employee voice, and them feeling like a valued contributor to the organization's bottom line. And lastly, we're going to talk about the risk and what that looks like with AI developing and coming into the workplace, and the role that AI should play and how you can maintain a stealth workplace. So as we jump in, before we jump into that, I want to share a little bit about who I am to you. I am LaShawn Davis, and I specialize in helping companies strategize solutions to create thriving workplaces. In other words, I fix broken workplaces, dysfunctional places where employers aren't seeing the results or the outcomes that they want. The employees may be disgruntled or disconnected, disengaged, and they're not under and the leaders don't understand why. So I empower employees to speak up for themselves and advocate for their needs. I work closely with organizations to help mend the cracks in their foundation before their workplace becomes completely broken. I address and mitigate risk that exist in the workplace so that organizations can work towards a healthier and more productive outcomes. I used to call myself the workplace fixer, then it transitioned to the workplace culturologist. So anything workplace and maintaining a healthy, productive work environment, that is what I specialize in. That is my specialty. That's my HR niche. And I'm excited to share a little bit about these insights with you today. So first, let's talk about the shift. Evolving landscape of employee care. How did we even get to a place where we're talking about how to invest in employees beyond the paycheck? When people work, get a paycheck, go home. That's what it's customarily have been. But we're in a different environment today. And it's all thanks to COVID, right? The how of why we got here is because of the myriads of dysfunction that riddled our workplace since 2022, and the onset of COVID, 2019, 2022. The world of work as we once knew it will never be the same. It is forever changed. And that is because when COVID happened, employees saw companies making profit and they weren't feeling the benefits of their labor at that time. So companies were making money, but employees were still working in harsh conditions. And that led to employees standing up for themselves, advocating for themselves. This is when we saw the uptick in unions and people standing in solidarity and feeling like a union was a solution for them because my employer isn't listening to me. My employer doesn't value me. My employer cares more about the business profiting than they do about my personal well-being. The company and the country was saying everything's shut down, but I'm still having to go to work. The country is saying 6 feet of separation, but my organization didn't put these guidelines into place, and so they're not caring about how well I work or how safe I work. All of these things created dysfunction in the workplace, and it got us to a point where now the employees feeling like that they want more. So what exactly is this dysfunction? It's a deviation from the norms of social behavior in a way regarded as bad. Pandemonium. That's what we've been seeing, pandemonium. If you look at what's happened in Amazon, getting their first union during this time frame, Starbucks getting hundreds of stores now unionizing because of dysfunction. There are industries that before weren't accustomed to having unions because unions were more in the industrial, hard labor intensive industries. Now we're seeing it in retail settings. We're seeing union activity happen in Apple stores. We're seeing it in grocery stores that we didn't see this type of dysfunction before. And it's all because of COVID. And it's pandemonium from an employer perspective because never before have we had to deal with what we're dealing with in the landscape of work today. This is what dysfunction looks like. If you all remember, right? We had hazard pay. There were people holding up signs. There wasn't enough PPE, people before profit, keep frontline workers safe, restore hazard pay. All of this was happening at a time where the country was faced with something that they've never been faced with before. And employees felt neglected the most during this time, the ones who we were relying on and counting on to continue delivering service for customers and the people. So some of the drivers that led to this dysfunction was work-life imbalance, longer hours on the job and or mandating in-office working, dominating employees' personal life, creating a lack of rest, resulting in inability to spend time with their family. You're mandating overtime for me, so I can't even go home and enjoy my family like I used to. I'm working 12, 13, 14-hour shifts. I go home and sleep an 8-hour night. There's no time left for me. Because at that time, companies had to mandate this work, these longer hours in order to meet the business need. But this work-life imbalance created a driver for the dysfunction that we're facing in today's landscape. Then we saw the uprising with social injustices. We still see this today, right? This is when the Black Lives Matter movement happened, the Me Too movements happened. We started seeing a lot of this spill over into the workplace. There once upon a time was a time when we would say, if it's nothing to do with work, we don't bring it into work. We don't bring politics into work. We don't bring religion into work. We don't bring these things into the workplace. After COVID, pre-COVID, you're seeing all of these things in the workplace. And what's happening is that the societal conditions are creating workplace division. You have one side who feels this way, another side who feels this way. These divisions disrupt your ability to run your business, furthering why we're seeing so much dysfunction today. And then emotions. We used to say that, work is not about feelings, business is not about feelings, it's a business decision. But what employees are looking for is transparency and more collaboration with management so that they're recognized as an asset, not just a worker. Employees today, they want a voice. They want you as an employer to see them beyond what they produce, but as in who they are. Who are they as people? That is a shift from where we used to be in the world of work. But that is now what the future of work is going to require. So I ran across this quote that pretty much sums up how we got to where we are today. And it says the billionaires have gotten much, much richer over the course of the pandemic, and workers were still struggling. They're scared to leave their jobs because they need their health insurance and they're doing work that's essential, yet they're treated as disposable. All of those factors coming together has created a movement with a lot of potential. So I don't know if you've seen dysfunction in your workplaces. I don't know if you've heard employees talking about things differently than what they were 3 years ago, but this is the truth of where we are today. And if we don't address the dysfunction, and a lot of companies still have not, that's when we seep into disengagement. Disengagement is emotionally detached objectivity from the organization, meaning I go to work, but I don't care if you meet your goal or not. I'm just here because I need benefits or I need my paycheck or I have to pay my bills. There is no vested interest in the well-being of the organization because employees were feeling like the organization does not care about who I am. So why do I care about making them more rich? Why do I care about their profits if they don't care about who I am or who we are as people? That's when you started hearing employee disengagement. But I call it employer disengagement because as employers and as leaders, it's our responsibility not just for employees to be engaged, employee engagement, but also for the employers and the leaders and the managers to be equally engaged with the individuals that we're relying on for results. Absent engagement leads to further disruption of your business. And so now we are out of the dysfunction. COVID is pretty much dwindled down a lot, or we're in a place where we can cope with it as a country. And now this is where we're seeing a lot more disengagement because there are myriads of excuses and a lack of trust between the organizations and their employees. There's been a lot of layoffs, broken promises, emotional intelligence, relying on AI, and no thought for mental well-being. If we think back to last year, 2023, this and a whole bunch of other companies did layoffs. The tech companies were really big in layoffs. If you remember, Twitter, Facebook, all of them, over 10,000 of people were laid off and lost their jobs. And outside of the tech, these industries were also impacted hard by layoffs. How can employees trust their employer if they don't know if tomorrow they're going to be working or not? So this vast amount of layoffs that were seemingly happening back to back to back and not being handled with care led to mistrust between the employers and the employees. Then, if you remember, false promises. We went through this whole era of being mandating people to return to work. So in May of 2020, at the very onset of COVID, Twitter told their employees they can work from home forever. Then when Elon Musk gets into office of Twitter, the first email he sends is remote work is over. Company needs subscriptions to survive this downturn. How do we make a promise to our employees that we just don't keep? Amazon, same thing. CEO Andy Jassy says that he had no plans to force workers to return to work. And then what happens 3 years later, not even a year later, actually, Amazon employees are angry because they're suddenly forced to return to work. We have to be mindful of the commitments that we make to our employees. And if we can't stand by it, then we don't need to make it. Because what happens is we break the trust that we have. We went from working from home, which was able to be done during COVID when we had no choice but to do it, to now suddenly having to return to the office for a varying reasons why our organizations are doing it. But the bottom line is that the employees really don't care the why we have to come back. It's just the fact that I have to come back even after I proved to you successfully for 2 years that I can work from home. Why are we breaking this trust? So disengagement, right? This is a quote that is from the CHRO, the former Indeed CHRO, which I thought was very telling in his book called Human Beings First. He says people were sent home overnight and figured out how to do their jobs remotely in the middle of the worldwide pandemic, in the midst of social unrest, and companies were still successful. So are we really confused as to why employees might not like being ordered back to the office? I thought that was a really thought-provoking question. And it's just really something that a lot of companies have not been able to answer. And this is what led to, if you recall, the Great Resignation, when a lot of people started quitting their jobs because they didn't want to return to work, couldn't return to work, or were able to find a job that would allow them to continue to work from home. The trust factor between the employee and the employers were severed. Now, among all of this, we're in this new generational uprising movement where this labor movement has been energized by the younger 18 to 34, more socially conscious, more social media savvy workforce. And they presented this new set of issues. They presented these demands that are beyond a paycheck. You can't just pay me to come to work and operate or function without valuing who I am, without making me feel like I belong here, without being transparent, because we desire a seat at the table. This is also the group that really uses social media. And so social media has been a major driver in awareness to other people standing in solidarity or catching on to what is happening in this labor environment that we're in right now. People don't want paychecks, just a paycheck anymore. People want to be valued as people. So companies have to look at investing in the whole person, not just their pockets, if they want to survive what this future of work requires. We have to think beyond the paycheck. What is going to keep your employees not just happy, but truly engaged and invested in your organization? Your investment in them reaps a return on investment from them into your organization. When employees feel like you care about them, when they feel like they matter to you, when they feel like you'll go above and beyond when you can to make sure that they get what they need because they stay late, they work overtime, and they go above and beyond to make sure that you get what you need, the relationship now is reciprocal. It's give and take. And unless companies begin to shift in this manner and start valuing the employees as people, and start thinking beyond the paycheck, then the question of survival is really a valid question. Will companies be able to survive functioning in an antiquated thought process about just pay? I think Amazon taught us that it doesn't matter how well you pay people, you can still end up with a union. You can still end up with dissatisfied employees, and you can still end up losing your reputation as an organization because of the social media and the access and the avenues that your employees have to let everybody else know what's going on inside of those walls. That access didn't exist before. But now, thanks to TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all of the other social media avenues that are out there, people outside of your walls can see what's happening inside. And until you start thinking beyond the paycheck and thinking about the people, then you're trusting these people to share what's happening in these walls outside of the walls. And now you have to worry about your reputation. Now you have to worry about customers boycotting whatever you're selling or whatever you're serving because you don't know how to treat your employees right. And these are issues and concerns that we did not have to deal with before. We have to think beyond the paycheck. The first way we do that is thinking about work-life integration and holistic well-being. That is the need of employees today. I want to share with you briefly what happened this year with Kroger. So Kroger had this employee sue them because she was on a returning from a maternity leave after being gone for about 4 months. And when she returned back, she hopped right into working 53-hour weeks. And she told her manager it's too much for her. It was just, she was suffering, she was struggling, she couldn't get things down, and she was a manager of the bakery. And so because of her inability to get back into the swing of things, her team started feeling the effects of that as well. And so the manager's manager basically said to her, well, this is a business, we have a business to run. You have people who need your attention. They need you 100%. This is retail. We don't work 40-hour work weeks here. You know that. You've been here before. And all this employee was asking for was just a little bit of time to transition back into work after being gone for 4 months. After, I'm sorry, she was getting cancer treatments is what it was. She was getting cancer treatments and she was coming back after 4 months. And somebody posted this story on LinkedIn, and all I could see in the comments were what happened to the human side of human resources, and everybody looking at HR and how could they allow this to happen. And what I want to remind you all on this call is that the human side of human resources applies to everybody, not just HR. A part of thinking beyond the paycheck is looking at employees as human beings, people with actual needs. And so what happened in this case of Kroger, had that manager just taken some time and engaged in an interactive accommodation conversation with this employee and said, how can I support you transition through getting back to work? What is it that I can do to support you? Or what do you need as an accommodation, even if it's temporary? If we would have just taken the time to ask the questions so that that person felt valued and heard, they didn't do that. And so this person ended up leaving and filing a lawsuit against them, and they won. Because you have to engage in an interactive accommodation or offer a reasonable accommodation when it's warranted. And the only way you can prove it's not warranted is by having that interactive conversation with your employee, where you're going through understanding what they need, what you can offer. And if it doesn't pose an undue hardship for the business, you have to grant that accommodation. It's the law, the Americans with Disability Act law. In this situation, we didn't think about the law. We just thought about what we need for our business to get back and running. You're here. I need you 53 hours a week. Yes, business and business, I empathize with you. The leader actually even told her, well, you have choices. You can decide that this is not the job for you any longer because you understand what the demands are. That's forgetting the human side of business. And if we want to think beyond the paycheck, we cannot forget the human side of business. Work-life balance is evolving, right, into work-life integration, where personal and professional lives are seamlessly blended. And that's happening a whole lot, especially in the work-from-home environment. This approach promotes holistic well-being by accommodating the diverse needs of employees. The way that you make sure that you're meeting the well-being and the needs of your employees is to ensure that you're accommodating them when possible, when it makes sense, or when it's legally required. There's no more one size fits all. There's no more, we can't set a precedent. There's no more, we've never done it this way before, so I don't even want to try it. We have to get curious about our employees in this season. We have to get curious about different ways of working, innovative ways of thinking, if we want our businesses to continue to grow. Accommodations is a key to making sure that your employees' well-being is thought of before decisions are made. It's about thinking about your employees as individuals, not as a collective. What do they need to perform well in their role that's tied to their well-being? You should be asking, how will your employees complete this sentence? Or how do you as an employee complete the sentence? I feel cared for because my employer does what? And if your employees can't answer that question, if you're conducting stay interviews, I encourage you, ask them what makes you feel cared for here in this organization. Not what keeps you here, not what makes you happy, but what makes you feel cared for. And I want you to think about, is it a struggle for your employees to answer that question? Because if it's a struggle for them to tell you how they feel cared for by the organization, then likely you're at risk. You're at risk because they may not feel cared for. You're at risk of disengagement. You're at risk for workplace disruption. Employers should invest in comprehensive wellness programs that address mental, emotional, and physical health, ensuring that employees feel supported in all aspects of their lives. We have to remember, beyond the paycheck means that people aren't coming to work for you just because of the salary you offer. People are coming to work for you because they know you care about who they are as people. That has to be your mission. That has to be a value for your organization if you're going to continue to grow and prosper, relying on the employees that need to feel cared for. Are your benefits beneficial? So ensure holistic well-being offerings are used, not just available. When was the last time you actually audited your benefits package? And when was the last time you looked at how many of the things that you may be so proud of that you're offering are truly utilized by your employees? How much action do you get on EAP? How many employees are actually using that benefit? And if they're not using it, what can we do to make them aware that it's available? Or should we be investing in something else other than that? These are the things that you have to think about. It's one thing to say we're a robust company because we offer all of these benefits if nobody cares about the benefits that you're offering. You want to look at, is there an alignment between your workforce and your population that you serve and what you're offering them and what you're bragging about? Because if you're bragging about offering pet insurance and 90% of your population doesn't have a pet, nor do they use it, you probably want to rethink where you're spending your money when it comes to that benefit. So conduct a benefit audit and look at what are people using that you're offering versus what are you offering that people aren't using. And then have your benefits team really dig down and understand what's the root cause of why people aren't using it. Is it lack of knowledge or awareness about it? Is it the pricing? Is it an inconvenience for them to use it because there's only one provider that's over 50 miles away? These are the things that we have to look at investing in beyond the paycheck when it comes to your employee well-being. Are your benefits beneficial? Then the results. So employee voice and value contribution. Your employees want to feel valued. They want to feel seen. They want to feel heard. They just don't want to get paid, right? And so I saw this interesting statistic on Gartner.com, and it said, while 82% of employees say it's important for the organization to see them as a person, not just an employee, only 45% of employees believe their organization actually sees them in this way. So I wonder, what would your audience say? What would your employee population say? Do they feel that you all see them beyond a worker? Do you see them as a person? These are things that we have to begin measuring and begin looking at. And there are a lot of ways that you can do this. You can audit your workplace culture to see exactly what the sentiments are of your employees. If you've not engaged in a workplace culture audit, I would definitely encourage you to look into doing one, because there's so many things that you can find out about your workplace culture without even speaking to one employee. And so you need to leverage that data so that you can understand, is your organization future of work proof? Meaning, are you still operating in a I pay you, so be happy and do what I tell you to do mindset? Or is your organization a culture that's thinking beyond the paycheck? Because a lot of times we might think we're doing it, but until you actually hear the voice of the employee, you don't know. It's just an assumption. Employees want to be heard, they want to feel valued, and they want to feel like they're contributing to the organization's success. So whenever possible, we need to remind them of that. If results and outcomes are important to you, make it important to your team too, by helping them understand how they impact that metric. How do they impact that result? What is it their individual contribution doing for the overall well-rounded outcome? A lot of employees have no idea. They have no idea. But if we can give them that insight to say, this is the goal, because Every time you produce 52 of these, we're able to service one person with this. Tie it to them. Tell them the story about how much they matter to the work that we do and how the work that we do affects the community or the lives of other people. One thing that I tell everybody who's looking for a job, if you want to understand the organization's culture, how much they're going to care about you as a person, I tell them to go on their Instagram and go on their Twitter for that organization. And what are they talking about? Are they talking about the employees? What does it look like? Are they posting? Are they not posting? Are they talking to the customers? Are they responding in the comments? What are they saying? Are they talking about things beyond just business? Are they celebrating diverse days that we celebrate? Are they honoring veterans on Veterans Day? Look at what's happening in their social media. Window shop that employer, because that alone will tell you how much they value people. Creating an inclusive culture where their opinions are solicited and respected is crucial. And the way you can do that is inside of your building, but also outside of your building. Be vocal about what you're doing for the people because of the people on your team. So this is a question your employees should be saying, I feel valued. So earlier, I told you to ask them a question. Now I want you to ask them, I feel valued. What makes you feel a valued member of the team? Are they going to struggle to answer that? Answers you should be looking for, or things that you may want to start doing, are things like personalized appreciation. Everybody doesn't want a pizza party. People might be vegan and don't eat cheese, but you order this pizza party and you're saying, we're recognizing everybody today, or this is appreciation today. How is that going to make the person feel who can't eat cheese, or who can't eat dairy, or who doesn't eat pizza, or who's a vegetarian? Like, these are the things that we have to think about. How can we personalize the experience so that they feel appreciated, right? And then the recognition, is it genuine? Appreciation is total. I can appreciate you for coming to work. But recognition is a little bit different, because I'm recognizing something you did that had a positive impact to the work that we do. So we need a little bit of appreciation, but we also need genuine recognition. And this can be formal and informal, whether it's award, bonuses, thank you notes, shout outs, in the newsletter, a mention, employee of the month, all of those types of things really make a difference to the employees that are servicing your organization. And then inclusive decision-making. Involve employees in the decisions that affect their work in the organization. I tell my clients all the time that if you're looking to do a business change, the number one way to meet resistance with that change is just to throw it out there and see what happens. The way that you circumvent failure with a change is by involving the people who are affected by that change. Ask them, hey, this is what we're thinking of doing. How do you think this will work? Get their feedback, incorporate it where you can. Because even if you can't take heed to their requests or their suggestions, the fact that you even asked and considered it means so much more. Versus being that dictator type leadership that just says, we're changing, oh well, good luck. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you can deal with it. Your employees want to feel valued. They also want to feel understood. And the way you ask them that is, how do you feel? And do you feel that we understand you in this organization? Do you feel represented in the work that we do? Right? Because you want to have a culture that's respectful and inclusive. You want where diversity is celebrated and all voices are heard. When I go to that social media page and I'm window shopping this employer, do I see people who look like me on their images? Or do I see nobody that I can relate to on their images? What posters are posted in the building? Do I feel like I belong in this organization? Do I feel like this organization understands me? Also, health and wellness programs, offering comprehensive wellness programs that include mental health, physical health, and emotional health support. Benefits is beyond just medical insurance. There has to be a comprehensive wellness program. And if you are a manager and you're unable to speak to the comprehensive wellness program that your organization offers, I encourage you to familiarize yourself with it, because you never know how you might save somebody else's life by offering them support that they may not have known existed. That's what Employee Assistance Program is for, EAP. A lot of people think about it and when things are going wrong, but EAP is also there to help you make financial decisions, to help you with financial planning, to help you in all aspects of life. Are we talking about these things? Are we sharing these things? And are we offering these things? The way that you understand your workforce is by offering the wellness programs that complement their need, right? Inclusive decision making. Offer flexible work arrangements such as remote work or flexible hours. Encourage people to use PTO. I know we're really big on working from home. How can I trust that you're doing your job? I'm going to monitor you. I'm going to, like, who has the energy or time for that? If you can't trust the person that you hired, then blame yourself for not having a thorough interview process, because the people that you hire should be trusted to do the job that you've hired them to do. If you find yourself micromanaging, that just means you're lacking performance management. They're not the same thing. Performance managing your employees is very different than micromanaging them. Micromanaging creates that mistrust. So in areas where you can, like I said earlier, if they worked from home for 3 years and you mandated them coming back to work, thinking beyond the paycheck is, you know what, I know that you have an hour commute to get here. And so what if on Mondays and Fridays, the busiest traffic days, we allowed you to work from home and you can just maybe come in on during the week when we have our team meetings and things like that. Do you know the wavelengths you can go with a person just by saying that to them? Encourage PTO. If you see somebody stressed out because you know your team, you've gotten to know them, you'll know when something is off. Encourage them to take the time that they need for them. That's how you show them that you understand who they are. The role of AI in the workplace. So this is up and coming. This is happening more and more where we're seeing AI kind of take over and people wondering, is AI going to replace my job? When you're thinking beyond the paycheck, you have to know AI could never replace the human components of a job. I want to show you here, this case is about a lawyer who relied on AI during when he submitted his court filings. And he used ChatGPT. And ChatGPT cited at least 6 cases that did not exist. And in this story, even though the lawyer said to ChatGPT, are these real cases? And he says he really honed in on them, and ChatGPT assured him it was real. They were not, and the judge caught it. The judge caught it. We cannot think that AI can replace the work that we do. What AI does, it enhances the work that we do. You will always be the expert in that thing. Your employees will always be the expert because they have the human working intellectual knowledge, that human emotional intelligent component that will never exist with a machine. So when you're utilizing AI in the workplace, let it be just a boost. Let it complement what you're already trying to do. Let it help you formulate and structure things that were your original thought concept or your team's original thought concept. But your team should know that you value their independent thought. You value their ideas. And that communication, that message can get muddled when we're relying heavily on AI. So we can't just accept what AI gives us. That human still has to tweak it and alter it for it to work for us, because AI has no emotional intelligence. So your team should not be fearful that they're going to lose their job to a robot. And if that job, let's just say, is in a manufacturing or warehouse, and you believe that a machine can really do what that person is doing, then your job to show that continued care and value for that employee is to help upskill them. Teach them, train them on AI, train them on the machines so that they can be the thought behind the machine that could potentially replace the work that they do. It's not discounting, dismissing, or diminishing their value. It's coupling it with AI so that AI can help boost them become more productive contributors to your organization. So while AI is a powerful tool for enhancing productivity, the irreplaceable human qualities of emotion, empathy, and creativity, that ethical judgment, that's what truly drives success and innovation for your business. If you're looking for your business to continue to do the same thing every day, day in and day out, routine and pattern, you're not looking to grow, you're not looking to be innovative, then AI might work for you. But if you're looking to be a progressive company, you will always need the human element to help you continue to enhance and help you continue to be innovative and help to really produce the suggestions that AI might provide. And the question you ask your team if you're doing your stay interviews or your one-on-ones is, how does my leadership make you feel trusted? Or what can I do to help you feel more trusted? You want to know, do they feel like you trust them to do the job that you've hired them to do? You don't want them to be fearful that AI is going to replace them. And if AI is incorporated in your workplace, show them the balance that's between leveraging AI for efficiency and nurturing the human elements of your workforce. That balance ensures technological advancements that complement what we're trying to do without replacing or undermining them. Does your team feel trusted? If we fail as organizations to think beyond the paycheck, right? Again, dysfunction from COVID led to disengagement to today. What you're looking at next is disruption. Disruption is a disturbance or problems which interrupt your ability to do business. Disruption looks like your team banding together and all standing in solidarity and walking out, refusing to do something because they're upset at a workplace condition that you discounted how it might make them feel before you rolled it out. Disruption is your inability to serve the customers that you have because the people you're relying on don't trust you. Disruption is where we're on the brink of if this does not change. We've seen some disruption. We've seen some stores and some retailers and some organizations and small businesses and companies have to close their doors because people are refusing to work or because customers are refusing to shop because of the reputation that has been birthed because of dissatisfaction in a disengaged workforce. If you can't keep up or do something about that disengagement, it will result in disruption for your organization. And that's what we want to avoid. And the way to avoid that is first starting with thinking beyond the paycheck and dismiss the concept that because I pay you to do a job, I expect you to do that job. Those days are no more. And then next, as I close and I open it up for questions or comments, I want to leave you with this quote. And this is also from the same book, Human Beings First. I want to ask, beg, plead with every leader out there. Think differently about work. Think differently about how you can ensure employees are collaborating, learning, building relationships. Think differently about leadership and think differently about how your company can possibly lead the way so that employees can make choices for themselves rather than being forced into your desired way of working. So I'm asking you as I close this webinar to think differently. Think differently in how you lead. Think differently beyond just offering a paycheck. Think about the people, the human elements, the human components of your culture, of your workplace culture. And so I want to thank you for your time and your attention. I'm going to pop over to Kaylee to see if there's any questions that we had in the comments or anything that anybody would like to ask.
LaShawn, that was amazing. I loved every part of that. We had the chat just blowing up throughout and with all different, really great insights to what you were saying. Don't have any Q&As yet from this webinar, but feel free to put them in. I do have a couple questions that came in when people register for the webinar that I'm hoping maybe we can go through in case anyone wants to take some time and add some more questions in.
Okay.
But the first one is actually about the HR Plug. How can people learn more about the HR Plug's Roadshow?
Sure. The HR Plug is my company, my organization, and basically, primarily, we work with organizations to help them build sustainable workplace cultures. However, in my time in doing that, I found there was a lot of needs for individuals, individual leaders and individual employees. And so there's a part of our company called Unplug, where I encourage you to unplug and disconnect from those things that are draining you when it comes to work and pour back into yourself. So I'm a strong believer that no employee should rely on an employer, one employer solely for their financial stability because of all the things that we talked about today. So Unplug, it goes on tour to work with groups of people who are ready or interested in being a dualpreneur, who want to understand how can I keep my job because I need my job and I like what I do, but how can I live a life that I'm not just relying on that? How can I generate multiple streams of income? How can I network with other people so that I can keep my database full of people like-minded like me? So Unplug, we build the environment, we build the space and the ecosystem for all of this to happen, and for all of your burning HR questions to get answered, and for all of the support you need for career development to unfold. And so that's kind of what it's about. And you can go to my website, www.thehrplug.com, and I'll put it in the chat. And you can also go to unplugevent.com. And on Unplug Event is where you'll see where I'll be, where we have events. Our conference is going to be in Atlanta, I can tell you, in April of 2025. So just keep on the lookout for that and keep looking on the website, and make sure you follow me at the HR Plug, connect with me on LinkedIn, so that you can stay abreast of opportunities that are happening.
I love that. I added your LinkedIn in the chat a little bit ago, but I will add it in
Okay.
again in a minute. And I can say that LaShawn is one of my favorite people to follow on LinkedIn. So highly recommend connecting with her or following her. We had a question come in through the Q&A that actually was asked as well before the webinar. So how can you get old school managers on board? Sometimes it's a struggle to really get that buy-in from even leadership in general. So what are some, I know that we could probably do a whole webinar on this topic, but what are some quick tips that you'd like to share?
Sure. I think, when you're dealing with that older, antiquated thought process, you cannot go wrong with the data. The thing is, are you showing them the right data that's tied to what they're directly impacting, right? So if you have a manager that continuously yells at people, or who just is still of this mindset of I'm paying you to be here, then maybe you pull the turnover data for that manager's team and you show them this is how much you cost the company because of your inability to relate to the people that you're hiring. What's happening in the interviewing process? Why are you hiring people that don't want to stay and work for you? It's a matter of asking those tough questions and getting them to think about how they have to shift, because it's not just the organization, but it's the leaders who represent the organization to the employees that also have to shift and think beyond the paycheck in their actions and their mannerisms and in their engagement with their teams. So data, real hardcore data, and the numbers don't lie. And if you're well equipped with pulling this data, you might want to look at turnover data. You might want to look at how many people are leaving within the first 90 days on that team. You might want to look at, voluntary terminations reasons. You may want to decide to do exit interviews concentrated on a specific area where you're having these issues. You may want to do focus group sessions. Like, there are so many ways that you can capture data, but the key is, what are you doing with it? And how are you using it to help this leader understand what they need to become so that the business can continue to do what it needs to do?
Perfect. I love that. We had another question come in the chat actually. How I know that we talked a lot about benefits audits and just overall audits in general of
Yeah.
initiatives and things. How can we locate effective tools to conduct a benefits audit?
So there are some companies that do it, that will do a benefits audit for you. However, your benefits providers, I would ask them for data. So they should be able to pull this data for you. How many of your employees have enrolled, engaged, or utilized certain things that you might be really curious about? I would start there. I would start with your benefits team. I would conduct benefit fairs and just gauge the interest of what tables are people populating to learn more about that benefit, or ask your team, what benefits are we not offering that would be valuable for you to have? So it's really about getting curious and not settling for what you think is good or what you think people want, but utilizing the voice of your employees, utilizing the data from your providers, and looking at how they feel about what's being offered. And you may want to look also, when was the last time you changed a certain benefit? Or when was the last, like, how long have we had this benefit? This benefit has been here 55 years. Like, do we still need it? Are people using it? So those types of things really encompass and, auditing your benefits package. But I know that there are also companies who are able to do that for you. Now, workplace culture audit is a little bit different because that's an audit that you can start with your HR team. And if you need help with that, I can certainly help you facilitate a workplace culture audit. But that's more looking at your internal practices. What does my life look and feel like from the lens of the employee working there? That's what a workplace culture audit is. And it also incorporates that middle line manager. How do they feel about the work we do? Because if your middle line supervisor, that level, isn't engaged and they feel disconnected from the business or the employee, then the chain is broken and you won't be able to refix or mend your workplace culture. So definitely auditing is all about being curious about a thing. So however you can get curious about it, get as much data as you can about it to tell the story of what the truth of the matter is.
I love that. It's very interesting, especially being from a marketing background,
Yes, the background.
to hear how many different audits there are in HR and leadership and how each one is so, there are things that overlap and things that are a
Yes.
little the same, but they're all so different. And at the end of the day, it's for like the betterment of the company as a whole, the people, leadership, all of the above. So thank you for that.
And I see Julie Turney's on this call. I just want to, and I saw she posted there is a benefit audit from Aon, and she put the link. If you're in HR and you're on this call and you need that HR for HR person, I highly recommend also connecting with Julie. She's also someone that I leverage to help me help HR professionals. She is HR at heart. So definitely look at the resources that she's offering. She knows way more about, I had her actually facilitate a HR people analytics training for my conference. So this is really her wheelhouse. So thank you, Julie, for sharing that. And you guys be sure to collect with her. She can help you when it comes to understanding what type of data tells what type of stories.
Perfect. I love that. Well, hi, Julie. Thanks for sharing that in the chat. On the realm of benefits, we had a question come in during registration is when working remote, how do we get organizations leadership to see that engagement is more than just seeing each other in person? And then it's also about, professional development, interest in career path, learning opportunities, conferences, things like that.
Right. And so that's a great point because a lot of leaders just believe that let's have a Zoom meeting. Everybody turn your cameras on. Like if I don't want to turn my camera on, that shouldn't be a big deal. Like respect my space, respect my privacy. There are other ways to engage with people. And again, it's about knowing who they are as an individual. If you weren't doing one-on-ones with them, start maybe doing a monthly one-on-one where it's just you and them. And you're not even talking about their results or what they're not doing or what you need them to do, but you're talking about what do they need from this setup? Like, how are you looking to grow? How can I support you in this? Asking them how you can support them as opposed to assuming what you're offering works is the biggest mistake that people make. And so if you're managing or leading a hybrid workforce or a remote workforce, I would definitely say, ask them what makes them feel engaged and connected. Poll your team, audit your team in that sense, because it's not just turn on your cameras. If anything, they're annoyed with you by asking them to do that. It's more so giving them what they need so that they still feel like they're a part of the team, even though they're physically not there.
I love that. I do feel like a lot of the times in companies, assumptions are
Yes.
abound. So
Yes.
forgetting assumptions and actually talking to your employees, engaging with them, seeing what they need. Love that.
Absolutely. And I would tell employees, don't be afraid to ask for what you need because your leader's not a mind reader, on the flip side of that. So if there's something you need, if there's a conference you want to go to, ask about, is there training budget money? And if they say no, can we budget for it next year? Because there's this training that I want to do. Like you got to advocate also for what you need to make the best out of your workplace situation. And don't just rely on your manager to do that either.
Yeah, definitely. There's also so many, nowadays, I know we talked about a post-COVID world, so many virtual conferences and trainings that are either free or don't really cost a lot. So there's a lot of opportunities and you have to believe in yourself and invest in
Absolutely.
as well. One more question that I got that, again, this could probably be 2 or 3 sessions, but what are some policies that you think need to be thought of in regards to using AI in the workplace? I mean, AI is not new, but new. And some people still haven't really used it or are kind of like afraid to use it. We have a session next month about AI and HR. So there's a lot around H or AI. What are some policies that you think that companies need to put in place when it comes to that?
Yeah, it's really not about policies from my perspective, rather performance, right? So if you set clear performance expectations of what you're looking for, it becomes very challenging for AI to replicate that. So I would look at the deliverables or the takeaways you're looking for from your team and making sure that you're somehow incorporating them into it. Because if your ask is very much standard, then the response could be very much AI triggered. But if your ask is very much so, I need your independent thought because you did this before, tell me how you would do X, Y, and Z, or walk me through or show it to me, it becomes very hard. It becomes hard to rely on that AI machine because they're not with you in that conversation. So I would say it's not so much implementing policies, but just relying more on the live human. Don't ask for an email, have a conversation, ask them on the spot, ask them to put a presentation together for you so you can talk through things. And don't just rely on that written communication because that's how we get in trouble with a lot with AI. We're having these full-fledged email back and forth chats on the computer or chats and the thing. And really, it's just a conversation which will allow you to get to know that person as a human and not utilize AI. So that's where I would start. But also, stick to your plagiarism policies. I know a lot of organizations even block like ChatGPT and some of these AI devices from their systems because it's not just because of what AI can do, but also what you can share into this AI world and proprietary information and things that you might ask that are tied to very confidential trademarks and things like that. They run a risk of AI picking that up and sharing it, and you unknowingly do that. So that's why I would proceed with very much so caution. I wouldn't even put your employer's name in an AI device if you're using it, and truly be confident in yourself and who you are. Know you were hired for a reason. Know that you got this. Know that you're not incapable of doing what you know how to do. So don't try to take shortcuts or depending on that machine. Depend on who you are. And as a manager, leverage who they are so that you can get the results that you need as well.
Oh, I love that. I feel like also about AI, I learn something new every single day or hear a new piece of info that I'm like, oh yeah, that's probably a good thing to know about AI or not doing AI. So thank you for that, LaShawn. Christy also had a question. Will I get the recording after this? Yes, I will be sending the recording out this week. So be on the lookout for that. She'd like to share it with her manager. So that's
Oh,
great.
that's what everybody wants to do, right?
Right,
Listen, low
exactly.
key, I can talk to your manager, just show them this. Hey, I went to this great training. There's some great points in here. I'm happy. That's a low key way to throw shade. So go ahead and do that. I love it.
Here's some timestamps I think that you should check out. Exactly. Well, thank you, LaShawn. I'm going to share my screen really quick. We are wrapping this up, but this session was hosted by GoCo. GoCo is an all-in-one HRIS, and what we really try to do is take the manual tasks off your plate so that you can invest into your people, your company, things like that more. So if you would like to chat with GoCo, you can go to goco.io/coffee, scan this QR code, or I'm also going to pop up a poll really quick on if you would like to chat with GoCo. Feel free to put yes or no. But thank you so much, LaShawn. Thank you so much to every single person who attended today. I got so much great info from you, and I hope you all did too. Is there anything you would like to end on, LaShawn?
No, I mean, I think everything was great. I am going to be in Pennsylvania on Saturday for the Working Mom Conference. So I did want to put that plug in. If you're in the Pennsylvania area or you're not far from it, definitely come out. If you're a working mom, it's a great, great, great event. And I would love to meet you there if you're going to be in the area. Otherwise, connect with me, follow me, and I might just be in a city near you soon.
Yay, awesome. Well, hopefully, LaShawn, we can do another session together here soon. I think it was amazing. But I hope everyone has an incredible rest of their week, and I will see you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you, LaShawn.